Hello, Tim Crosby here, and today's topic is the topic that all instrument players are interested in, and that is tuning. We tune because we care, and we tune because we can. So I'm going to get into here in just a moment or two what I think is probably the most accurate and reliable way to tune, because it's always with your instrument and you can never leave it behind. But just to start out, most everybody these days is familiar with the little electronic tuners. These are just the coolest invention. This happens to be a Snark. There are several brands that you clip on to your instrument, either at the peg head or in the case of a banjo, sometimes you clip it on here. Push the little button, play a note. It will tell you what the note is, and the little dial will tell you if you're sharp or flat. Okay? Now that presumes a little bit of knowledge already. What does sharp and flat mean? And how does it tell you that? And the little pamphlet that comes in the box with one of these tells you some of that. But what is sharp and flat? Well, with a stringed instrument, flat, well, in any instrument, flat means that you hear the pitch that is below the pitch that you want. It sounds lower. In music speak, that's flat. If it's higher in pitch than the pitch that you want, that's sharp. Okay? With a stringed instrument, flat means your string is too loose and you need to tighten it up. Sharp means it's too tight and you need to loosen it. Okay, so that gets our nomenclature out of the way. Older school ways of tuning, one of my favorites is what's called a tuning fork. You can get these in several pitches. Usually the one that's preferred for all instruments is an A 440, and there's a whole long discussion about that. You can look up A 440 and find out why that is what it is. But it's a tuning fork. You bang it on something sort of hard but not too hard, and it causes the little tines of the fork to vibrate. And then if you put it on something that resonates, it will amplify that sound. The way I use one of these, since if you do this, you only have one hand available, I like to clench it between my teeth. You won't be able to hear this, but I will. Makes your whole skull resonate to A440, and then you can hear it in your ear and can use that to compare whatever instrument you're tuning. Another version is a little electronic pitch generator. There's that A440. Really obnoxious sound, but it gives you a reference point. Okay, so those are easy, convenient ways to tune. But in my opinion, they're not the most accurate. So particularly the electronic tuners, the little chip inside is accurate, but the display doesn't give you a very accurate display. So use those to get pretty darn close to the note that you want, and then start training your ear to be able to get right on the pitch that you're looking for. And so what I do on all of my stringed instruments, I use the electronic tuner, get close, and then I dial it in detail-wise using harmonic tuning. And this is where it gets cool. Right. Background information for that. You can take a screenshot of this. I'll tell you what it is here in just a sec. Or you can look up sine wave harmonics music. You get it? Okay, there we go. So very briefly, this is a representation of the way a note or a string vibrates from the nut to the bridge. It'll give you that note. If you stop the string at the exact halfway point, then you get 2 octaves. I can't do this. Okay, you got that. At the 12th fret on your guitar, well, at the 12th fret on any fretted instrument, or at the halfway point of the string on any stringed instrument, even if it doesn't have frets. So there's our, in this case, an E. Well, let's use an A. There's a low A on the guitar. There's the octave of the A. And then, if you move up here, in the case of a guitar, or a mandolin, or a banjo, to the 5th fret, that's a quarter of the way. So quarter of the distance, another quarter of the distance, another quarter of the distance. And that gives you yet another octave. And there's another one way up here at the 8th. You can barely hear it. These are called harmonics. Everything that vibrates, vibrates according to the same mathematical ratios of octaves, and then other intervals of it. Radio waves do that, light waves do that, everything that vibrates does that. So we're going to take advantage of physics and learn how to tune. On the guitar, the interesting thing is that the way the strings relate to one another, it's tuned in what's called fourths. So from the lower string to the next string higher, there are 4 notes of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a fourth, and then the next note is a fifth. So it's a fourth from the E string to the A string. It's also a fourth from the A string to the D string. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the interesting thing about this relationship is there's another important overtone, and that's the 1/3 mark. So if at the 5th fret it's the 1/4 of the distance of the whole string, at the 7th fret it's 1/3 of the distance, and that gives you the 5th of that note, or in this case, so that would be an E note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and you see where I'm going with this. If it's a fourth between the strings, and one of those harmonics is the 5th of one of the strings, and one of them is the octave of the other string, they match, as if by magic. So on the lower string, say on that lower A note, you play that 1/4 harmonic at the 5th fret, you move over to the D string and play the 7th fret, which is the 1/3 harmonic on the D string. Voila! It's the same note. 5th fret, lower string, 7th fret, higher string, and now you have the same note. So you can use this to tune. So I usually start out by tuning my A440 note. Whoa. Here's that A440. And you get that one to match. So your A string at that 1/4 harmonic spot matches. So now we're in tune with the universe. So now you can start with that as your reference point. And tune it very closely. Oh, you heard that go past. And so by doing this, you can train. You have to listen very closely, and you have to listen for what you're listening for, and train your ear and train your brain to hear those really close, being in tune. And then you can move across, so you can go the E and the A and D, D and G, and then there's this pesky 2nd string on a guitar. You'll have to find that on your own, or talk to me at length. It'll take a little while to do that. But this is a cool way to do it. It works, the 5th fret, 7th fret works on the guitar or any instrument tuned in fourths. Like the banjo, it has also some 4th tunings. So you can do that same thing with the banjo, with your D string at the 5th fret. We'll make that A. You can tune to the pitch pipe or the tuning fork, and you get that note. And then 5th fret, 7th fret, D string, G string, and then you can use your G string with the half harmonic G, and then the octave of the G to tune your 5th string, and then the same thing, the octave, D against D, works on the banjo. The mandolin, because it's tuned in fifths, they're in different spots. So now on the mandolin, the lower string, you would play the 7th fret harmonic, the 1/3 harmonic, against the octave harmonic of the higher string. So G at the 7th fret harmonic gives you a D note, which is the octave of that D, and then A, and then E. Here's a couple of tips and pointers. When you first try this, when I do it, it looks easy, right? How do I get it to ring so loudly? It takes some practice. Here's the detail of that. When I say the 5th fret and the 7th fret, I don't mean put your finger on the string where you would put your finger on the string to actually play that note, because that way you're putting your finger behind the fret and pushing it down so the fret stops the string. In this case, you're just touching the string at that spot and releasing it. You just touch it lightly, put your finger on it just lightly, you're not pushing it down, and put it right exactly above the fret. Touch it, strike the string, take your finger off, and it should ring. With a little bit of practice, you'll be able to do that. The easiest place to start is at the octave, the 12th fret. If you've got dots on your fingerboard, the double dots are usually where the octave is. So give that a little bit of practice to where you get the hang of being able to make those harmonics ring out, and then go to the 5th fret and the 7th fret, the 5th fret and the 7th fret, and learn to tune your stringed instrument with the harmonics. Thanks for being here. Hope you have fun doing this. See you next time.